Hi, I'm Simon from Duncan West Automotive, and this is my R32 Skyline GT-R, which I own, but has been used and is being used as a development platform for 909 Motorsport. 909 Motorsport is Australia's Bosch Motorsport dealer, and in conjunction with them, we have converted this vehicle from a fairly generic Australian-derived engine management package to a full Bosch engine management electronics package. So it's Motorsport ABS, MS 6.2 and DDU9 dash. The transformation in torque delivery, transient throttle, how the engine responds to inputs, the smoothness, that journey alone has been worth it. This basic engine package has been there for a bit over 5 years, obviously driven and look after numerous other GT-Rs. So it's been a very transparent sort of a process for me to know that there's no other GT-R that drives like this. I have had a period where I was working for BMW and Audi, and the actual experience at Audi is what started the process of me wanting to better the engine management in this vehicle back in 2011. I somehow reached a point and said, why doesn't my car drive like this? Why can't it? And that's been a very, very long process to get to where we are. But for me now, if you went and grabbed a current model M3, for instance, being a similar engine package that's got the latest technology, direct injection, what have you, that's how this vehicle now drives. The seemingly effortless torque delivery and smoothness from the engine is equivalent to that type of package. But fundamentally still an RB26 cast iron built in the 80s.
Hi, I'm Ashley from 909 Motorsport. We've been looking after Simon's GT-R for the last few years. So in this particular project, we use the Bosch MS 6.2, we use a DDU9, and we use the Motorsport ABS Club Sport kit. All those items work natively together. They're all part of our high-end motorsport range, which the roots are back to an OE development standard. So there's a lot of knowledge in that package that has been developed through thousands of man-hours worth of testing. So we know that's going to be good for a motorsport project.
Clearly the Bosch products we're using is not by accident. You know, I have a relationship with 909 Motorsport, they primarily look after the development of the car from the electronics package. But it's not that simple, in my opinion. You know, we've got an engine package from Race Pace in Melbourne that, you know, if you don't start with a good base product, it doesn't really matter what you build up around it. So all the components on the vehicle have played a role to achieving this. The Bosch MS6 ECU, its processing power is phenomenal in terms of how it makes its, I guess, calculations. But of course, that all being said, that's only as good as the person that's then tuning it. So Ashley from 909 Motorsport, his attention to detail and quest to extract every last little about it. We're not talking power. We're not interested in power. We're talking about power delivery, usable power and torque, where it is in the rev range and how long it's there for.
Some of the key benefits of the MS6 ECU over some of the competitors would be the engine control. The fuel spark timer, I believe, in this ECU is extremely good. It looks after the timing of the fuel and spark as the most prominent part of the ECU. So having accuracy of timing control is probably the most important, timing and fuel. Alongside that, you've got extremely good knock control per cylinder with dual bank knock sensors on this car. We're using a lot of the I/O in this ECU. It's got dual onboard lambda control, dual onboard EGT that we use both because it's a twin turbo car, so we monitor both of those. Dual bank exhaust pressure sensor, dual bank turbo speed. The boost control in this car is actually a blend of turbo speed and manifold pressure control. So there's a lot of variables there that we actually use to control a unique engine that is dual bank on the exhaust and single bank on the inlet.
From a customer perspective, the terminology these days is OEM plus, I guess seems to be the buzz terminology, but that's definitely what we prefer. We've got a couple cars here that have, one a Yaris has just finished up from a track day last week, an RX-7 having the engine go back in, but all around that usable track cars that can be used on the street, either daily driven or spirited weekend driving, not things that just make really big horsepower for a short period of time that are not actually, usable. You don't just slip any of these components into these cars or any car without a horrendous amount of late nights. So it's time and money, it's investment on both sides. For me personally, being, I guess, the owner of the business of the vehicle, not so much an auto electrician, the wiring of the Bosch ECU compared to all its competitors, and the importance of individual sensor grounds, well, not the importance, the requirement for critical sensors, where other, locally sold ECUs, they're shared. So this ECU's, its entire purpose is to, the way I see it, is to win motorsport events. There's no room for error. So if you supplied the ECU what it requires, right down to we were not able to use any factory Nissan ignition power supplies to the ECU. They all had to be rewired from scratch because the demand from the ECU in terms of its processing power is so high. We thought we'd be okay on two of them, we weren't. But even things with developing drive-by-wire development. Drive-by-wire was the most interesting thing for me, is the way it records data. So we had a pedal arrangement in the vehicle, which for most ECUs is sufficient. We had continuous calibration issues. We've swapped that out for Bosch Motorsport pedal, which took some fitting, and the consistency in that calibration, that use, is night and day. And what that means for me is that it's such a tested product to OEM level that if you supply it what it needs, it just works.